Well, hello, everybody, and thanks
Hello.
for joining us. We've got our new microphones we're testing out today.
Woohoo!
So if you are watching this in Facebook land, do us a favor and comment if you can hear us or if you can't hear us. I'm sure if you can't hear us, we'll get lots of comments about that.
Right.
So, welcome to our Seeds of Life series, in which we are bringing forth tiny little concepts that, when they're planted, when they are practiced, when they're watered, can grow into a massive change in your life. And today, we are going to build on a concept that we started on our Thursday class. If you haven't seen that Thursday class, go ahead and go to our YouTube page, Organic Living Chiropractic, subscribe and look for the video on the sacred seasons.
It'll be up there this afternoon.
It will be up there soon. So if you're watching this later on, it'll probably be there. If you're watching this live, just give us a day or so. So as we move forward into change, there is a process to change. There are stages or steps to change, and we can put those together. My mentor, Donnie Epstein, has put those together into 4 basic seasons of change. And if we understand this process of change, if we can read the map and identify where we are and where we need to be, the pathway to making that change happen becomes really clear and really obvious. And on our last webinar on Thursday, the seasons of change, we talked about the season of discover, which is acknowledging that there is a need to change, acknowledging that what we've been doing hasn't been working, acknowledging that we seem helpless to make this change in this moment, acknowledging the experience that sometimes things never, or sometimes things seem like they're never going to change. Okay. And once we acknowledge all of the pain that we've caused ourselves and we've caused those around us by resisting the change that we need to make in life, once we acknowledge that pain and acknowledge that we have created that pain, we can easily move into the process of change. And one of the things that is really, really popular to talk about nowadays when we're going through change is the concept of letting go. This concept that we've got things that we're holding on to, we've got feelings, we've got habits, we've got behaviors, and we just need to let that shit go. We've got other people triggering us. We just need to let that shit go. All right. But like, what does that actually mean? Like, what is it that we're holding on to, and how the heck do we let go? So this is really, I'm going to read from the book by David R. Hawkins, Letting Go, which is a phenomenal book. If you're unfamiliar with the psychiatrist David R. Hawkins, I highly recommend any of his work. The one that I would probably start with would be Power versus Force. But Letting Go is a phenomenal, phenomenal book explaining like what is it that we are letting go of when we say that and how to do that. And this letting go process really is a succinct summary of the season of discover and transform and moving through from discover to transform. So I'm going to read a quick little chapter in this because it summarizes this. It summarizes 2/3 of the webinar that we gave in a couple pages, which is amazing. So it says, the mechanism of letting go. Letting go involves being aware of a feeling, letting it come up and staying with it, and letting it run its course without wanting to make it different or do anything about it. This is the key to moving through the season of discover, experiencing and accepting what is without wasting our energy trying to change it before it's ready to change. It means simply to let the feeling be there and to focus on letting out the energy behind it. And remember, energy is just potential. Any experience that we have is potential. It's energy and potential being experienced from a specific energy level. So when we are at a lower energy level, we are going to experience the world from a lower state, from pain, from discomfort, from challenge. When we're at a higher energy level, we will experience a lot of things in life that we used to experience as pain as opportunities to change. And when we're at a very high energy level, we experience life and the potential for change as a gift, not necessarily as a problem. So our energy level directly affects how we experience life. And what we're experiencing is energy and information at its essence. So the first step is to allow yourself to have the feeling without resisting it, without venting it, without fearing it, without condemning it, or moralizing it. It means to drop the judgment and to see that it is just a feeling. This technique is to be with the feeling and surrender all efforts to modify it in any way. Let go of wanting to resist the feeling. It is resistance that keeps the feeling going. We cannot change anything that we have not acknowledged and valued. You cannot go out and make someone do something, but if you're in a really good relationship with that person, you can ask them, you can influence them. And if you're in a really good relationship, more often than not, you'll actually get them to be able to, they will go along with what you're asking for. And it's the same thing with any parts of ourselves, any parts of our lives, any experiences that we have. Anything that we do not have a relationship with is going to be much harder to influence. When you give up resisting or trying to modify the feeling, it will shift to the next feeling and be accompanied by a lighter sensation. A feeling that is not resisted will disappear as the energy behind it dissipates. As you begin the process, you will notice that you have fear and guilt over having feelings. There will be resistance to feelings in general. To let feelings come up, it is easier to let go of the reaction to having the feelings in the first place. A fear of fear itself is a prime example of this. Let go of the fear or the guilt that you have about the feeling first, then get into the feeling itself. When letting go, ignore all thoughts. Focus on the feeling itself, not on the thoughts. Thoughts are endless and self-reinforcing. They only breed more thoughts. If we experience something, we're developing a relationship with it so that we can influence. But our mind has this amazing capacity to mute experience and take our potential and go into conceptualization, go into thinking. If we're thinking about something, we're not experiencing it. So just recognize that thoughts bind energy. They keep things in place. They keep them the same. And this is really good. We need to have thoughts for survival. But if we want to get to thriving, we actually have to drop into the experience. So the next time that you realize that you have something that you want to let go of, what experience is coming up that's then driving you into the thinking or into the doing? Pay attention to the body. If you have a habit that you want to change, before you jump into that habit, just stop and really tune in and say, okay, what's driving me into this habit? What part of my body is resisting? What part of my body seems guarded or tense? Okay, and I want everybody to pay real special attention to this center line right here. A lot of times we will distract ourselves with the symptoms, but not the actual experience. So we'll have a habit that we want to change and be like, oh yeah, my shoulders are really tight. Okay, that's great. Keep going. Is there anything in this center line? And if you're not finding anything in the center line, or if the center line actually feels really, really good, and you start tuning into this center line, pay attention to the space around you. Okay, is there anything, any direction, any place in the space around you that you notice feels restricted or tight or sludgy or yucky or something else like that? And in reality, that's the experience that you're trying to avoid by jumping into the habit, by jumping into the emotional state, by jumping into the thoughts or the ruminating. What experience is being avoided by all that stuff that you want to let go of. And you'll notice after playing around and practicing with this for a little while that the experience that we're trying to avoid experiencing is typically not really as bad as we're afraid it is. It's not really as bad as the amount of energy and expenditure that we do to try to avoid or resist feeling it. Okay. And once you can identify what is the experience that you're trying to avoid, the only thing that you need to do is just to soften. In order to let go of something, it takes energy to hold on. Letting go is the easy part, but you first have to identify what is it that needs to soften. And whenever you get into softening, you'll notice that things just fall away. What do you think, Connie?
It's like totally clicking with the dirt bike crash that I had this week.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because I wrecked not that hard, but hard enough to like rattle myself. And I totally went into like defense mode, and I even was shaking on the mountain. And I saw you when I came back, and like my shoulders were like this, and I'm like, I think I have a concussion, and I threw my shoulder out. And these are all things that I've done in the past. And my emotional state too, when I was riding with my friend, was like, oh, I'm ruining the day because I fell, and it's not a good day, and I feel guilty for needing to stop, and all these things. And like one of the things that I struggle with, that I've struggled with, is letting go of that feeling guilty for needing something, or for wanting or craving something. And so it just clicks really well, because as soon as I was able, like you said, to like soften and let it go, the experience that I realized I was avoiding was the experience of like helplessness, and the experience of asking for help,
Yeah.
because I have a hard time asking for help. I'm getting better about it, but it's just funny because it all like really, really clicked. And it threw me back, the wreck threw me back into that like trauma mode. Like my body went into it so quickly, but I was able to shift out of it a lot faster and like look at it, where it took me literally like just a few hours that day and help with an adjustment. Whereas like that feeling I was stuck in that feeling for the majority of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good because I'm like coming back to the habit and realizing, okay, it's not guilt that I'm struggling with. It's not asking for help really. It's like giving myself love and giving myself the worth that I need.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's the experience that I avoid, is
Mm-hmm.
feeling
Mm-hmm.
worthy.
Yep. And whenever you are feeling unworthy, where do you experience that in your body? Like what part of your body seems to get triggered whenever you're in unworthiness?
The shoulders go like this, but it's the chest that gets really, really tight.
Right there.
It's
And
like
you could
here.
see it whenever she was describing it. It's like our whole body came around to guard and
Mhm.
protect this area. So this is where the tension is. And so the more and more we can just soften right where the tension is, the less and less our mind will be fueled to try to run away. And then the less we have to control our mind. And I don't know if you've ever tried, but controlling the mind is a never-ending task that you will never get through. All right. So releasing yourself of the need to control your mind, because there's not a part of the body that's driving you away from an experience that if you will just experience it, it will change. It will flow into another experience. It's the resisting of experiencing life. It's the resisting of accepting life, accepting ourselves. That's what causes the vast majority of suffering on this planet.
The other thing it made me think of was the energy levels, right? So we have different thoughts at different energy levels. When I first came in after the bike, I was in a very low energy level, and I was like, oh, I have a concussion and my shoulder is dislocated. And I was like stuck on the problems of it. And then after I was able to let go, I was like, no, I'm just kind of banged up. I just fell down a mountain, so it's gonna hurt, but the pain isn't like debilitating. I'm not like worried that I wrecked my brain again or any of these things, where before I was able to shift into that higher energy, when I was stuck in the lower energy, I was like, oh, I wrecked everything.
Yep.
So it was just that simple shift. I let go and then I like jump up to a higher energy level and I'm like, oh, I feel okay.
And remember, it takes energy to resist. It takes energy to be tense. So if the only thing that you do is let go of resisting and soften, you then free that energy to help you get up to a higher energy level. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Please share this video with as many people as you can. Go to our YouTube page and subscribe. Share this on Facebook. If you're interested, contact Organic Living Chiropractic. If any of this stuff resonated with you, please reach out either on Facebook or on email. And coming up at the beginning of next month, we're actually going to be starting a book club. One of the big problems that we are struggling to move through in our society right now is, what is that right balance between masculinity and femininity, not only in our society, but also in us uniquely as individuals. So we're going to be launching a year-long book club to start to explore this concept of what is masculinity, what is femininity. Is it just gender, or is it a lot more than that? Could it possibly be two of the fundamental elements that keep existence in place? And if we know our unique balance, if we know where the balance is around us, we have the highest potential to create the best life, the best society, the best world that we could possibly imagine. So contact us if any of this interested you, and thanks for joining us, and we will see you soon.